Hi, my name is Susan Cranston, and I'm the host of Authentic You, a talk show that features people who've made changes in their life to follow a more authentic path. We all have hopes and dreams, but all too often, we don't pay attention to those needs or to the deep calling of our subconscious. Sometimes, it's easier to go through the motions and not challenge ourselves to live our life to the fullest. We can live an authentic life, one that brings us joy and a sense of purpose. If we focus with determination, we can make anything happen. It's all a matter of deciding how much we want to make our dream a reality. Today's guest is an HR professional. She's a grief recovery specialist, and she's also a #1 best-selling author of a book where she has a chapter in it called Succeeding Against All Odds. She's highly respected in her community as someone you can count on to get things done, and she gives of herself to volunteer and support events such as Women of Waterloo Region and Leadership Waterloo Region. On today's episode, I'm so pleased to welcome Marion Neisen to Authentic You. Marion, thank you so much for joining us here on Authentic You. Now, you have been selected to write a chapter in this book, Succeeding Against All Odds, and by the founder, Sandra Yancey, and she's also the president of eWomen Network. And so tell me a little bit more about that experience, because I hadn't heard of this before, and I'm really interested in terms of how you were selected, what this experience was like, and maybe a little bit about Sandra and connecting with her. How did that happen for you?
Well, the experience was awesome. And so how it happened was I had been affiliated with eWomen Network through their website and the various seminars and conferences that they hold. And on their website one day was this call for co-authors to submit their application to be part of this book. I call it similar to chicken soup for the soul kind of concept, right? And so anyway, after that, an interview happened, and because I had some questions, and then I actually applied. And yeah, so it was a great process to go through.
How long did you have to wait until you found out, when you're from the submission of your application until you were selected? Was that a long period of time, or?
No, not really, because what they do is they make a decision fairly quickly based on the conversation that you have with them, and then you submit some answers to some questions to get the ball rolling. So from beginning to end, it wasn't that long, perhaps a month. And then because it's a running process, so there's always people entering in to apply, so they don't have necessarily a deadline.
So it continues.
Correct.
So what was that? Was that something you always wanted to do, or was that a new experience for you to, be published in a book that became a #1 bestseller?
Right. I felt that I had a story to tell after my husband's death in 2007, and it just didn't have the nerve or the courage to do it. And this, because it was overwhelming to me to write a book. And so I felt that I got the goosebumps when I saw it, and I thought, this is it. It's a chapter. This will be easy.
Easier, a little bit easier for sure, and it's a successful book, so thank you for bringing it today. And you have a story to share with us, and recently you took on a new role in terms of being a grief recovery specialist. Is that something that you felt that after your husband's death that you wanted to pursue, or again, is that something that you fell into?
I would say that for me, it was about taking the pain and the heartache and doing something with that. And so I felt that I had the story to write. And yes, it was after that, and decided that I needed to, I wanted to help grievers. Grievers, we're each a griever at some point in time or multiple times in our lives, and I wanted to be that person who could help them do the work to move through their grief to feeling better, and so then I took the training.
That's fantastic, and that probably has been a cathartic experience for you, one where you probably had a lot of learnings or epiphanies in terms of your road through the grieving process.
Yes, because the actual training, you go through the action steps that the grief recovery method takes any person who goes through the program through it. And so that's the first half of the training, is going through it yourself. So I can honestly speak from experience about the impact and the power of the program.
So with this chapter that you've written in the book, Succeeding Against All Odds, what are the key takeaways? Why should someone pick up this book and particularly zoom into the chapter that you've highlighted for me here that's yours? What are the key messages there?
Because I think it'll resonate with a lot of people on many different levels. One, they will see that there's hope at the end of the tunnel, in that sometimes a dark tunnel of grief. I believe that it will help people who have lost loved ones, so they'll be able to resonate with that part, and they'll be able to see that in this particular story, I'm also supporting, because of my experience, supporting my niece, whose husband was killed in the line of duty as a volunteer firefighter. And so that's part of the story, and I think that, you know, I want emergency response professional families to know as well that, you know, you can work through the grief.
Yeah, that's a process that I actually had another guest on in the first season of Authentik You, Marnie Belotis, who is the founder of Hummingbird Center for Hope. And she works very specifically with widows or widowers that have children. And she taught me a lot about the grieving process. And she said that in many cases, people would say to her, well, it's been 3 months. You know, you really are sort of over it, and people pay attention in the first little while, and then, you know, when someone who's grieving really needs the support, a lot of people are sort of, and it's not because they're not thoughtful or considerate, but they just sort of assume that you're through the most difficult part of the grieving process. But she explained to me, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, that it really just changes. You feel grief, but you feel grief in different ways, and that you never stop caring for or loving the person that has died.
Definitely. I mean, you won't forget. You never forget. And I think that for a lot of people, they feel that they need to grieve alone because they feel that they're the only ones who really know how they feel. And that is true. Every relationship or every loss is unique. And so there are many myths out there. And one of the myths that I talk about in my chapter, in my story, is about time doesn't heal. It's the work that you do within that time that helps you heal to feel better. And some of the other myths that go along with that we've grown up with and society has unintentionally projected is that you need to grieve alone because I can't handle you know, the tears or the emotions that go with it because it's a bit disturbing.
Can you hold that thought for a second? We're just going to take a break, and I want to pick that up and explore that because I think it's really important to get into some of those myths and bust them along the way in our conversation. Thank you very much, and we'll be right back with more of Authentik You. Stay with us. Hi, I'm Susan Cranston, the host of Authentik You, and I'm here with Marion Neisen. She's been sharing her story and that she's recently been published in a #1 best-selling book called Succeeding Against All Odds. And Marion, we were just chatting before the break about some of the myths that exist around people who are grieving, and you were sharing some concepts for myth busting around how people sometimes don't even know how to respond to someone, and that often people feel that they need to grieve alone because of the emotions that they perhaps might be going through. Can you talk a little bit more about that and some of the things that probably would be helpful for someone who is dealing with someone who's going through the grieving process? What should they perhaps take out of their mind and replace with something else, something more helpful?
Right. So just to quickly answer that, if you go to my website, www.griefrecoveryteam.com, there's a complimentary free ebook. And that will give you, anybody who wants it can download it, and they will have some tips on what to say, what not to say to grievers. So that's one way that people can just have something tangible as a takeaway. In terms of what to say, what not to say, one thing not to say is I know how you feel. Even if, for example, I had a loved one die and you had a loved one die and they were of the same gender, the same, maybe it was a brother or a sister, but your relationship with your brother or sister was different than mine. And so I really don't know how you feel. I can appreciate how you may be feeling and some of the things that you're going through, but I really don't know how you feel. So you want to try and turn that, reframe it and say, what happened? Or if it's someone that you've known for a while and you know what happened, you know the circumstance, and you can say, you know, I can't imagine what you're going through. I can't imagine what you're feeling. And that helps to set the person, the griever, at ease.
Well, and probably in any situation, if someone says, I know how you feel, you're not that person, so you never can, but it's probably, I'd imagine, it's much more acute when you're going through the grieving process. So for the griever, they often probably would shut down, I think, to say, well, you don't. So I'm not going to share, even if I wanted to, and then, to turtle and to internalize a lot of those things.
Right.
So when you went through the experience of writing this chapter, did you have anyone, or were there people that supported you in this journey to doing this? Or was it something that you had just enough fuel on your own to just charge forward and write the chapter?
Oh, well, I wish I had all the fuel. I would say that my husband, Scott, has been one of my greatest supporters from the beginning. And my niece, Holly, supported, obviously, the chapter, her story. It's partly her story of being written. And I would say that, some good friends supporting me along the way, being a cheerleader. Yes.
When you look at the book now and you turn to the page where you have the chapters, how do you feel when you see your words like that in a published and very successful book?
Oh, boy, humbled, grateful that I had the opportunity. It was pretty amazing just to open up to page 185 and see my name and my title there of the story. Yeah.
What would you say to someone that is looking to get published, or whether it's a chapter in a book or they're looking to write a book? What advice would you give them now that you've gone through this experience?
I would say do it. Just do it. Find a way to do it. If you were like me and it felt very overwhelming, then find another way to do it in terms of in short bites, like a chapter in a book. So I think that that's the major thing, is just do it, because you never know where it's going to lead you and what kind of doors it's going to open for you and how you can continue to fulfill your dreams.
And how important, that's great advice. That's fabulous. I love that, because it's one of those things where it's don't overthink it, don't rationalize it, just take the leap. And we often talk about that here in Authentik You. It's taking that leap of faith and going for it. So, Marion, you've gone through the experience of having this chapter published. Is there anything you wish you could have done more of or done differently as you went through the writing or this publishing journey?
So in terms of the actual writing, you have a set amount of words and pages that you can write. Okay. So I had to follow those parameters, right? But in terms of what I would have done differently, I'm really pleased and happy with the story, how it's written. I shared it prior to it being published with a communications consultant, a friend of mine, and I wanted to know, not just from her expertise point of view, but also, how did the story sit with her? Did it bring some emotions? Did it make you think? All of those. So from that perspective, I think I feel I hit the mark.
Isn't that a wonderful feeling?
Oh yeah,
that you've got
absolutely.
No regret around that, and there was a message you needed to share, a story that you needed to tell, and you did that very effectively. And can you just mention again your website and where people can get and how they can get a signed copy of your book?
Sure. It's www.griefrecoveryteam.com, and so you can go on there and you can purchase a book, or if you want a signed copy,
yes, we do.
Then you can email me at griefrecoveryteam@gmail.com or phone pick up the phone, 519-893-2372. Press 1 for the grief recovery team.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. We'll
You're
make
welcome.
sure we post that to our website too, so that any of our viewers who want to reach out to you will be able to do that. Stay with us. We're going to be right back after this break, and we'll have more questions for Marion and get some tips from her as well. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Susan Cranston, the host of Authentic You, and I'm here with published author Marion Neisen, who's written a chapter in a successful book called Succeeding Against All Odds. Marion, when you think about your journey over the course of the last few years, and particularly now that you're published, what are you most proud of?
In terms of the last few years, I'm most proud of being able to support Holly through her process and doing all of the supportive background work. Not sure I want to call it work, but the supporting role that I played with her. So that's number one that I'm most proud of. Second to that, I'm most proud of being able to share my story, and my hope is that if one person can glean something from it that helps them move forward and work through their grief, or realize that, there is hope after the pain, and there's always hope through the pain too, because that's how you get to feeling better and letting taking control of your circumstances and not letting your circumstances take control of you and your life. So that's a key message, I think, in the story as well.
So you are and I've met you through the community, and as I mentioned in the opening part of the show today, you are so involved in helping out in the community in several ways, and you're involved with the Women of Waterloo Region, Leadership Waterloo Region, a number of different things, and now with the work you're doing around grief recovery. How did you engage the community, and did you, in terms of letting them know about the chapter in the book and the work that you're doing now?
So I have a fairly large network, and eWomen Network Publishing provides you with the scripts, if you will, to do the social media campaign with your own connections. And so that's what I did. I used, my connections and reached out to them, let them know what was going on. I modified the script, of course, to tailor it and personalize it to, to if I was emailing my friends, different kind of message, right, for them. And then to the rest of my community connections at large, Facebook and LinkedIn.
And you're really proficient on both of those. You use LinkedIn a lot. Mm-hmm. And have you received a lot of feedback from people when you're reaching out in this regard to get support or awareness for the book?
Well, actually, thanks for asking that, because through the WOW LinkedIn group, I had inquiries. One was an inquiry, actually 3, if I remember correctly. One was an actual inquiry to participate in my group. The second inquiry was, how can we partner together, our organization and your organization,
Wonderful,
to help support my clients who are spouses who are divorcing. And because that's a loss of a relationship, a loss of a family unity, etc. And then the third connection I had was an individual who was interested in the grief recovery training to get certified. And I'm very happy to say that she is going to be part of the team in partnering with my husband and I.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So you're doing like training the trainer already.
Well, I didn't do the training, but
but helping someone else be able to share this really important message. When you think about the viewers that will be watching this episode with us today, what is one thing you want to make sure you get across to them to let them know about anyone who, whether they are themselves dealing with grief or that they have a close friend or a loved one that is going through the grieving process? What is something that you really want them to take away?
Don't grieve alone. There's support out there. Action steps, take them to work through that grief. Do the work. That's what I call it, the work. And because you want to take that pain that you're feeling in your heart, you want to take it from your head, the intellectual self, to your heart, and that's where the pain is. And so that would be the one key message I would say. Don't grieve alone. There is help, and we're here to support you through working through that grief.
It's a great message, and it's so fabulous that you're doing this very, very important work, and that you've had the courage and taken the leap of faith to actually work on this book. You are an inspiration, Marion, and many people that I know say that about you for the work that you're doing. And tell me, who inspires you? Who is an inspiration to you?
So one inspiration is my niece Holly, how she has worked through her grief. And her situation was a bit different in that she not only had to plan, one funeral, but we had to plan 2 funerals, a public, very public funeral, and a private funeral, and the same with the visitations, 2 of them. And so just how she handled herself, and even as she continues to go to the many tributes. So it's reopening the wounds and the heartbreak again. And so Holly would be one of my inspirations. My mom, who died last year, would be another one.
Another great inspiration for you. And, you are being, watched in the community for someone who is leading the charge of doing this important work, as I just mentioned earlier. And it's so profound, and it's emotional, too, when you think about your experience and what you're able to share with such vulnerability. And that means so much to me, that you're able to do that in such an authentic way. I mean, that's the whole premise of our show, because people have feelings, and it is so important to be able to let others know that they're not alone, that they shouldn't grieve alone, that people, whether they're alive or they're dead, they can continue to inspire us in profound and powerful ways, that we can do things that we never thought we could possibly do. And you're living that. You're living that dream every day. And we're really delighted that you're on the show, and that you're sharing your journey with us, sharing the book with us. And as I said, I'm going to make sure we post all the information in terms of how to reach out and connect with you. We have a fabulous community here in Waterloo Region.
Yes, we do.
And we're fortunate to have you here to lead the charge in the work that you're doing. So thank you so much for being here. Any final thoughts that you want to share with the viewers?
I just want to share with the viewers that it is okay to reach out to people who can help you work through that grief. My mission is to change the face of grief, bring it out of the closet, bring it out of isolation, and to do that with one listening heart at a time.
That's fabulous. One listening heart at a time.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Marion. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here with us today on Authentic You.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us today on Authentic You. There are many ways you could have spent the last 30 minutes, and I'm really delighted that you chose to spend it here with us. If you'd like more information about our guests or about Authentic You, please connect with us at AuthenticYou.com, or be social with us on Facebook or on Twitter at Authentic You. That's Authentic with the K. Special thanks for the set design by David Boys, hair by Scott Keller of So Chic, and makeup by Jen Havinga of Distinct Boutique. And finally, thanks to my fabulous crew here at Rogers TV. Thanks for watching, and remember, it's always a great day to be your authentic self.